Ye of little faith in the liberal Democrat media, that is. A new Gallup poll reveals the distrust of most Americans of major media outlets, resulting in an all-time low. Surprise, surprise. A paltry 32% of people have some trust in today's media, while nearly 40% of Americans say they have no trust at all in the media. We'll break this down. I wonder why. I'm David Fiorazzo, and this is Christ and Culture. So Gallup has been tracking Americans' trust in media since 1972 and stated they've never seen numbers this grim. Most informed Christians and conservatives saw signs of this slow erosion decades ago. The difference today is the media is proud to support and endorse godless and woke ideologies as they themselves are ministers of misinformation. Vice President of Communications of Family Research Council, J.P. Duffy, said this, quote, "In the Obama era, trust in the media began a precipitous drop and never recovered. President Obama sowed much of this division when he imposed policies that suppressed religious liberty as never before and used his bully pulpit to criticize those who cling to guns or religion." He said that. The media cheered him on, and even more so when he later endorsed redefining marriage, end quote. So more than half of Democrats, 58%, still trust the progressive media, of course. But among Republicans, trust in the mainstream media has plummeted to a historic low of 11%. Now, back in June, another poll revealed only 18% of Americans still trust newspapers, while 14% trust television news. Now, one reason may be the growing and open hostility toward Christians and Jews. In addition to their warped worldview supporting what the Bible considers sin and evil, the modern media have been known to be anti-Israel and even higher anti-Semites. Case in point, their reporting after the recent hateful attacks in Israel is another example of what the Media Research Council refers to as a decades-long anti-Semitic Hamas PR campaign. Now, the mainstream media have a long history of denying the truth and dismissing Palestinian violence against the Jewish people, and it was again on display as many tried dismissing their brutality and the mass murder of over 1,400 Jewish people. Now, some blamed Israel and insisted that they deserved or provoked the attacks. Over at Newsbusters, Bill D'Agostino said this, quote, "The left-wing media view the Israel-Palestinian conflict through a pseudo-Marxist framing in which Israel is cast as the cruel and racist oppressor, while the Palestinians are the oppressed minority subjugated by a hostile regime. As a result, journalists at these networks think of violence by Palestinians as the violence of the unheard, and therefore they endeavor to excuse it." From CNN and MSNBC to the major networks, the reporting can be pretty bad. One anchor insisted, quote, "Israel is an occupying power." A contributor at CNN, Adel Raja, said in 2021, "The world needs a new Hitler." And an editor celebrated on Twitter when Hamas murdered 4 Jewish citizens in Jerusalem and called them pigs. Following the October 7 attacks on Israel, the 3 main networks have protected Democrat representatives in the House for their rabidly anti-Israel posturing, known as the Squad, informally known as 7 radical House Democrats, called on Congress to stop sending military aid to Israel, and they called for a ceasefire after Israel retaliated after the brutal attacks. Now, on ABC, CBS, and NBC, Newsbusters surveyed all nighttime newscasts from October 7th through October 22, watching for any mention of the Squad. Ready? In spite of dedicating almost 9 hours of airtime, a whopping 525 minutes to the ongoing conflict in Gaza, None of these networks gave a single second or mention to any one of the radical Democrats and what they were saying. It took the New York Times, for example, a week to admit that they jumped the gun and made a mistake saying Israel bombed a hospital in Gaza and murdered civilians. Now, the lie was reported and repeated and sent out as apparently media got their marching orders when no one had all the facts. In a separate article on how the networks shield pro-Hamas Democrats from the public, Bill D'Agostino writes this, quote, "These three women," and we're talking about Representatives Omar, Bush, and Tlaib, were also the only squad members to publicly repeat the now disproven claim by Hamas that the Al-Hari Arab hospital in Gaza had been destroyed by an Israeli airstrike. That was a lie. Even after evidence emerged showing that the blast was the result of a misfired Hamas rocket and that the blast had occurred in a parking lot rather than the hospital itself, all three congresswomen refused to delete their tweets on their official accounts that blamed Israel for the explosion. So, other recent polling indicates that a majority of Americans, both Democrat and Republican voters, still support Israel. But you'd never know that from the media. It's no wonder the Marxist broadcast networks have covered up the comments and actions of the anti-Israel wing of the Democrat Party. Now, this kind of story reminds us to be discerning and use caution about where to get the best news, information, and biblical commentary, and how to discern it. So many years ago, I put together a list of over 200 resources for Christians and conservatives to get good information. It's at my website, davidfiorazo.com, and one word, resources. Look it up. God bless you, and as always, keep speaking the truth about things that matter.